podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead Podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I very much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. You are listening to Good Brothers. This is the first recording, I guess official recording in 2021. So, as always, take the best part for yourself. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother.
Man. So, ain't no smooth way to get into this, but we basically experienced, a scene straight out of action movie. And sadly, a scene that is not unfamiliar to the history of the United States of America, pre-Constitution and post. If you study history well enough, in terms of a mob of individuals who were so displeased with the state of affairs that they thought it was cool for them to smash up in the Capitol. And there's a lot of layers and pieces and parts, but I will start with this and tell you, because I knew it would be some foolishness, I intentionally just tried to not really tune into it Wednesday until I got to the evening, and I was I'm out here visiting, dealing with family matters in New Jersey, and to change a spatial location for me. And I was like, well, let me get through stuff I need to do with the day, and then at some point, I will tune on the news and see what's happening. You know what I mean? And if it is elevated to like a full, decline of the state level, I'll probably get some kind of alert on my phone. So I'll just stay tuned out. But right. That's where I was at before I tuned in to see how far it had gone and how much had happened. Yeah, what was your situation as these events were happening?
So I was like working, right? And it's the kind of thing where you're working, but then people are like, are you watching what's on TV? And it's like, no, because I'm working. I'm not saying that for people who can work and watch TV, but there's a lot of multitasking I can do, and that ain't one of them. So it only took a certain time when they were like, no, they stormed the Capitol. Like, they're inside. And it was like, they're inside. And then I was on a phone call, a work call, and talking to somebody who just was like, this is what we're seeing. And, I guess for me, to your point, I think this is a huge part of this broader conversation. This is not new. This is what happens in different parts of American history. And because as a collective society, we are not taught to be students of history, we can ignore or not know that these are the things that happen, right? Like, this is entirely predictable from a perspective of populist government, blowback from, what is being perceived as like, helping out the blacks, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea of those who think the country is theirs. So in that, there's like nothing new or unique about this other than the fact that it offends our sensibilities, that this is really part of the American project, right? Like, everyone's saying we're better than this. No, we're not, right? Because historically, that we're not better than this. Historically, this is kind of what occurs, right? Like 1877, 1919, like, no, this is actually what happens, right? Like, and even in the context of white supremacists and militias, right? I mean, in 1995, a white supremacist blew up the federal building in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a whole host of examples of white supremacists and militias. Even this summer, there was a militia that planned to kidnap a sitting governor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the thing. As I was watching it, is I was trying to figure out or thinking about what were the instructions given to the different security units that were supposed to be securing spaces, right?
Right.
And when you watch some of the images, and maybe in the aftermath more details will come out, because I got the sense that especially and I think the Capitol Security, I don't know if they're Capitol Security, the cats in the suits, inside that had the straps out, I got the sense that they had different orders.
Yes.
Than on the other side, because they definitely had orders like, "Hey, man, we gonna secure this door," and it looked like they was ready to do what they felt was appropriate, if they had to. And the thing about it is, and this is, for me, because my thread of thought is, if you look at this, in Oregon, where I live most of my life, the similar, the local flavor of the same element has had these demonstrations at the state capitol and have tried to enter the capitol, and there's a situation actually where a state rep apparently opened the door and allowed.
I saw that. I was going to hit you on that. What in the world?
You know what I mean? It's, certain casts, they think that they're kind of related back to our general conversation on this, is that some people think that it's an acceptable risk to allow people who may cause harm and violence and mayhem to others in the villain because you empathize with their supposed, political position.
Yeah.
And you would risk all the rest of everyone else's safety because you feel like they need to get a chance to say or do whatever the hell that you think they need to say or do. In the assumption that they're not going to do nothing that's not justified. So you have that to when the cats ran up in the Michigan State House. You know what I'm saying? Like, these acts that to me, I thread it all the way back to the cats taking the federal property out in Oregon and in the Malheur Reserve. Like, this seems to be this conversation of like, oh, well, because they seem like they will be violent in response, let's not do something that will escalate them.
Right.
Which seems wildly counterintuitive to what you do to people who seem clearly like they're not trying to hurt anyone, at least in some essence. And the worry, the thought to me is, outside of any other conversation, if the running theme for our community and our people is the entities that are supposed to make sure that our civil and human rights are protected, historically fail us when the right person wants to violate our rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if, all I can think of, if they hurt Maxine Waters, they hurt Jim Clyburn, they you name any of they hurt any of them, I'm going to be in a real upset. I'm going to be in a place that I'm at to think about and figure out how I feel about life. Because someone who had the authority and was empowered to say, hey, man, you're supposed to keep this damn state. This is the capital of the whole country. Hundreds of elected officials, meaning hundreds of people, whether you like them or not, who reflect the will of at least a significant percentage of the population, are there trying to do the people's business. And if any functionary, officer, felt it was in the best discretion, like that you had the space to go, well, this is getting a little bit rowdy, maybe to preserve my, I don't know who to preserve my officers, to preserve something else, I'm going to let them through, or we're not going to resist this particular incursion, with extreme prejudice, so to speak, take like from straight out of action movie, is it's like, yo, this is what happens historically, and then afterwards it's like, wow, well, we need to have an investigation, or now we had an investigation, anything kind of probably post '70s. Prior, it would be like, let's try to act like it didn't happen.
Right.
Let's just act like, hey, there was a riot. They were shooting. They might have threw dynamite from a plane. Get out of here.
Right.
Who said that? You know what I'm saying? Like Missouri. It wasn't happening in Missouri. You know what I'm saying? Like, they'll just act like the shit didn't go on. And it's just, I guess I could, I could say that, you should have expected it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But also, it's like, you think at some place, there's got to be somewhere where it's like, hey, you know what you can't do? You can't allow a mob of people to storm the nation's, the damn seat of the Congress. Like, you just can't. Just can't.
Well, I mean, I think, but that cuts to the crux of this conversation around the fall and breakdown of people's trust in the institutions and the all-out disregard for the institutions, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a way in which people are like, you know what, I don't trust the institutions, so I just don't vote, or I'm not going to D.C. to protest, right? Because people are just like, I don't, right? Then there's the disrespect and the flouting of the institution, where you do say, I'm coming up in there to tell you I don't like something. Mm-hmm. Which is a different. They both represent a distrust of the institution, but one, they're both insidious, but one is far more harmful, frankly. So the fact that people will say, okay, the fact that, the elephant in the room is the fact you have a president who's lied to people for years and then said, go down there and show strength, right? Mm. Like, and then they go down there and you got a whole bunch of people who are riled up from being with each other. So it was like really between an action movie and like The Simpsons or like Jim Belushi, right? Like, because you had people with outfits on that like were from Animal House, right? Right. So people dressed up like Donald Duck and Legal Eagle, right? So it's like this mix of weirdness combined with what has become almost fascist, in the sense that people are aligned to Donald Trump. Like, those people are supporters of Donald Trump. They are not supporters of the Republican Party. One of the things that came out of this for me from this experience was to explain to people that you have like where individual and rogue whiteness split with systemic whiteness, right? Mm. Now, systemic whiteness has always done a pretty good job of keeping individual and rogue whiteness in its tent, right? Like, a wink and a nod when people do stuff, being okay with racism, being okay when police kill people, right? So you have these individual forms of whiteness that then the systemic structures of whiteness kind of keep around them for their use, right? Very similar to when the Democrats, there was a time that you had the New Deal liberals and Dixiecrats in the same party, right? And the Democratic Party kept them around until it was not to their benefit, right? Yep. So systemic whiteness has kept this individual rogue whiteness aligned with them because it benefited them politically, right? They were the people who kind of would give them the extra votes to do things in the last 15 to 20 years. Yesterday, or last week, we saw the break. We saw that rogue individual whiteness turned on the systemic whiteness. Yeah. And said, you better fix it, and we don't care if we coming in there to deal with a Democrat or Republican. Whoever it is, we got a problem with all of y'all. And that's why I think you saw such a swift condemnation and swift response, frankly, from all parties in the world. Because those who are part of that systemic whiteness realize that these people, to use a black term from the 90s, is off the chain. You know what I'm saying? Like, they off the chain, and they don't give a fuck about none of y'all. Yeah. You know, these folks don't care about none of y'all. So I think it was like a very new day for those who always have assumed that systemic whiteness can keep individual rogue whiteness in the tent appropriately. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or like
yeah. They could keep. You could cap it, like you could. Oh well, we'll pull them up when we need them, or we'll let them, do
yeah.
and they'll raise the temperature, and people will go like, well, they got some points there, you know what I mean, and all that, and it was just like, I mean, as it was happening, and I was like, and I knew your man's, you know what I'm saying, he wasn't gonna fold because he's calm, he's a huckster, man, he's calm, man. He's like, oh, I gotta play the play till the play keep playing, like when the play breaks, you just do a new play. You don't ever concede defeat. You just go to another play. You go, all right, well, maybe I can do this one. Maybe I can do that one. Like, and it's like I said, it's to continue the basically, the basic reality, and I think a challenge of at least definitely, the systemic white power structure condition of, if that's the dude that gets me what I want, then I'm gonna keep rolling with him. Right. And therefore you can't see that, like, no, this man has no he has no allegiance to like your actual ideas. He has allegiance to his ability to control things and profit. And once he saw that, I can get these people, you know what I mean? He's like, word up, I'm gonna tweak this till I can't tweak it no more. You know what I'm saying? And strictly the idea that, like, I'm gonna lead the presidency with 88 million Twitter followers means I could sell mad steaks and college admissions, and I'm gonna do a political. I can imagine all of the businesses he was going to suck money from them people. He probably still find a way to, from a percentage of those people that follow what he's saying. And this is not to say that his interest is benign to me or in some way, because my thing is that he's the one who, and I think within the purview, and I think this would fall within the analysis of often the way people look at, the broader sense of white supremacy. The white supremacy does not care what happens to people who are outside of who it cares about. Right? So it's not so much even that it always is planning a way to harm, black people or brown people or other people. It just doesn't care. It's like, oh man, like, oh, you know what? If we can build this landfill over here, that'll cost us. I don't care who's got to live next to it, because I don't live over there. That's their problem.
Right. We will see it just as a fait accompli, right? Like, we just have to do it.
It has to happen.
So, you figure out how to be safe, because we have to do it, right? And I think, so to add on, I think your point about the use of Trump by the Republican Party, and the use of the Republican Party by Trump, right? They had a relationship of convenience that was beneficial in the short term and burned them in the long term. Because when it was good, and it was beneficial for them. But now, 4 years later, from 2016, they not control the presidency, the House, or the Senate. And that's given generally bad politics by the National Democratic Party the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, there's been nothing unique here, nothing special here, right? So you still end up with not control of any of your parties 4 years later, after making a deal with someone who would do anything you wanted as long as you put up with his shenanigans. And now you'd have to deal with the fallout of them when those shenanigans have turned on you, right? Like, those shenanigans have turned on the very system. And if anyone thinks that this is over, I have some land in the New Jersey Meadowlands to sell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not over. And the mentality that has been fomented is in no way over. And because I argue the fact that whatever platforms that they end up using will be off-site for the rest of us, so we won't have any idea of how bad it's quote-unquote getting. Because we'll be on the platforms we're on, continuing to send the echo chamber messages, but so will they. Yeah,
and it's the the basic reality that these people have been having this conversation, you know what I'm saying, on multiple social media platforms for months. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that, like, you know, and this thread of thought that's like, you know, you have to protect one that basically private entities have an obligation to make a space for people to talk about whatever the hell they want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still have, you know, this thing will not just fizzle out, so to speak. But I want to ask you this before I go too far off. Do you think? I mean, in one way, I think it's clear that they overplayed the hand a little bit. You know, because I don't know, but I'm not totally convinced that we still won't see, you know, sort of the same midterm, you know, basically in terms of like sort of a GOP resurgence, at least within, you know, like the House maybe, but I know the Senate is longer off, but like I'm sure some people will go like, oh, well, the Republicans have fully overplayed their hand, and this is it. Like, you know, now this is the age of the you know, whatever you want to call it, the Democratic, you know, apparatus should be the party should be able to kind of run the country for not just this next 4 years, but the next 12, and maybe, but as
that's a damn lie.
Yeah.
If anybody thinks that, they're lying. And again, I have some space to sell them in the beautiful marshlands right off of 95 in Union County, or some spaces to grow cranberries in the Pine Barrens. No, so from a political standpoint, Donald Trump got 70 million votes. He had the most votes that a Republican had ever gotten. At some juncture, that genie doesn't go back in the bottle. And you may not want everything that came with it, but you want the fact that he pulled out the base. He minimized House losses in the House. And if he hadn't imploded, they would still control the Senate.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason they lost the Senate is because he imploded, and they did some amazing organizing in Georgia, which is clearly, I think, a way to look at a state that Black and brown and immigrant relationships and all those things have not, because it's still relatively new, have not been separated and siloed like much of our other politics, right?
Right.
Because the newcomer population in Gwinnett County and all those counties and all the people that moved down from different, places, people were a part of and thinking to be a part of really doing that. Also, especially in Warnock, they picked a really good candidate. Right. Democrats don't always pick good candidates. We pick people who are we sometimes just pick the people who are in the Democratic Party, not good candidates. Yeah. But no, I don't think that at all. I don't think anyone should take this as a referendum. This is a referendum on someone that came to destroy the institutions, because he's always been like that.
Yeah.
But, and we're talking about the 50-50 split, right? Like, the idea of control of the Senate is it's tentative at best. Mm-hmm. Like, this is Joe Manchin's world now, right? If Joe Manchin don't like something, you can't do it. unless you go get Murkowski, or unless you go get somebody else, right? So, no, I don't think so. I think 75 million votes should make people really aware that this is not a referendum for Democratic, like, running the country for the next 8 years at all. Yeah. In fact, it might be 2.
Yeah.
Right? It might be 2 years before, because Warnock has to run again, which makes it a little easier, but he still has to run again. So even with all the money they just raised, they're going to have to raise a ton more money for Warnock again to win.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that if they can find a GOP candidate that, brings all the odious stuff Trump thinks about with none of the odious externals, right? The odious policy without the odious, presentation, that you're going to have something. I mean, this is going to sound odd, but I really do think this. America is a center-right country, generally speaking.
Yeah, it is.
So sometimes the right comes to the center, right? You get a Barack Obama, you get different stuff because the right came to the center. Joe Biden, another example, right? The right, or the people who, the nebulous, independents, or those kind of people, because Donald Trump being Donald Trump, actually came to the center. But it's important to remember that Donald Trump got more votes this time than he did last time. So even with presiding over the worst public health issue in almost 100 years, just not being worthy at all to deal with any kind of racial reckoning in America, more people decided to vote for him than last time. That is something that we should reflect upon, because that means just because he did certain things or spoke a certain way, there were more people who decided to make that decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a center-right country that goes back and forth depending on the presentation.
Yeah, because as it was, I mean, and I think we talked about, when old Turtle Man, my man Mitch from Kentucky, tried to kind of start going like, all right, y'all, let's move on. Like he tried to softball it like in November, like, hey, well, all right, well, letting it play out, and then all right, y'all, let's try to like get ready for this next wave so we can keep the Senate. Yeah, I mean, I was like, and then as this week, everybody, like everybody got religion. Like, oh man, I guess we should go ahead and just get this vote out and then move on to the inauguration. But the idea that, like, these people are strategizing, to continue to be in control. They definitely, it's clear to me that they thought that whatever would happen at that rally, that it would just be like, oh man, it's like, oh, it'll be like the other kind of crazy, wacky rallies and just flags and somebody throwing, stuff. Maybe it'll be a little bit of squabbling with the counter rally people. You know what I mean? And then it was like, no, these people, actually tried to run it. They ran up in the building. I mean, I would. My ask to the media apparatuses that exist would be that, we really, as a country, we need you to get all the pictures, all the aftermath pictures, all the cleanup stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We need expose heavy, like, here's all the things that these people did in the seat of government. And the entity that's actually supposed to be the most powerful part of our representative democracy,
Mm-hmm.
Representative republic. You know what I'm saying? The intention is that the Congress would be the part that has the most power to make things happen, and they do have the most power to make things happen if they decide to actually, use it instead of signing off and letting other people write all the bills, and But that's for another conversation. It's not something that should just be a page turn, within the broader scope. One, because it's an absolute. Any other country, if we got a report that, a mob ran into the Brazilian, seat of Congress, national offices, you know what I'm saying, we might, because of our, biased way of perceiving South America, we go, oh, look at South America bugging out again. Right? Like,
right, but banana republics, right?
Look at their crazy governments. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, no. That's not that's a peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmark things, whether, and I know we could get into the deep analysis of, is it really peaceful justice? You know what I'm saying? Do with the rampant violence in the context of the American project. But, it, it just shouldn't be something that just gets a page turn and a man, that guy was wacky. It's like, no. The thing about human behavior is, and obviously your man's Holly, I think he feels like he could be the cleaner version of Donald Trump. He's trying to position himself as, I'm the dude that's going to do this. I'm the one that's going to run against them next time, and but look at me. I'm younger. I got this zippy haircut. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna hit you with the I'm gonna play on whatever narrative you think about rugged individualism as it pertains to. I think he's Montana, or north of
Kansas.
He's from Kansas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, even more Midwestern. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna play on all of that stuff so you can assign all these values that I didn't earn to me, and then and then in his mind he'll be thinking, now how can I do this so that they can never get me out of office, right? And if you allow folks to have that be an operational part of how they do politics, this is then what you're fighting in terms of that's how autocrats operate. And you have to go like, no, autocrat, we're not with that. And we will, we've put in place the things that'll go, no, when your time is up, dog. And if you have to, somebody got to snatch you out the building, at 12:59 on the last day of your assignment, that's what will happen. And, and I know some folks will hit me with the, like, this doesn't affect us or doesn't matter us. We shouldn't get too tied up in it, but we need to be mindful for our own ability to protect ourselves. Like, full collapse of structure and government will not happen without, great trauma affected upon people, and especially upon people who are either in reality or in some way perceived to be the least able to protect themselves. Right. So there's
anybody that think that is a damn lie too. Like, this ain't our business. When they stormed the Capitol, what do you think they was going in there to do? And if they were successful and got them to stop the vote, what do you think that they would start doing as far as hijacking all of the other parts of American society that are not really hijacking already?
Yeah. It's very naive. Like I get it. It's fun for an internet meme and all that, but in actual practice of life, it's like, yo, what if they do that and then you get up to drive out the office and they go, oh no, there's a roadblock, off your street. Everybody from your neighborhood ain't allowed to leave no more. And you be like, nah, man, but that's between y'all. And then there's dudes there with guns, and there's no one showing up to help you. Right? And you was a goddamn internet warrior. Your thumbs was your thumbs was typing all hard and shit when you was technically saying all that tough shit on the internets. And in reality, you have no plan to secure how you live. Like,
your thumbs got calluses,
man. Like, so I get upset with them people. Like, when folks go there and they're like, "Nah," I'm like, "No, we have to be. We cannot build a world to make a better situation for ourselves and all others, and act as if we can be benign to whatever is happening in the world that exists." Like, we have to engage it. We got to think about it. We got to be mindful of it. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think to your point, and this is also complicated, I think, for people. We rightly so have affixed our lens on the fundamental issue of American society, which is race. Mm-hmm. I think in that, then it gets difficult to see anything outside of race, right? So therefore, the first conversation everyone goes to, well, look what happened with BLM. That's not the first thing here. The first thing is a group of people were spurred on by a sitting president to go and stop a vote. After he had extended all other structural means of doing something, right? After he had asked his vice president, after he called Georgia to find votes, he said on a call,
"Fine,
I need you to find me 11,000 votes." Right? Like, he did everything. He filed every cases, and this is an example of a true fascist. He did everything he could systemically, and then when he didn't have something systemically, he sent his people down there. That is way deeper to me than the fact that 60 people got locked up at the thing and 300 people got locked up at BLM. So the fact that we will make everything about race obscures our broader political conversation and our political economy conversation about power. What we saw last week was about power, straight up.
Yeah.
And it was white on white, showing you that this is a power conversation about who has control of the institutions. And, I think everyone has used the whole Malcolm, whether you got a suit on or a hood on, you're the same. There are varying degrees of people being the same. You know what I mean? And again, I like to your point, systemic whiteness sometimes, and white supremacy doesn't want to. It's not like it always wants to harm you. It just doesn't care if it hurts you or not, right? But there are varying degrees of that. And I think that people should just be aware and thinking that what we're seeing, to not just minimize it to race, that when a country is having challenges of a peaceful transition of power because of a particular population, only 6 months after sparking worldwide protests around the killing of Black people and citizens by government forces, essentially, right? Because that's essentially also when you broaden it out a bit, citizens are being killed by government forces.
Yep.
Right? They are police officers. They are peace officers, right? Like in particular in Pennsylvania, in the charter, in the Constitution, that's what police officers are called, peace officers. They are given certain protections by the state, right? That are unique to them. And you're killing citizens. You're not killing criminals. You're killing citizens. So, when you make it and just kind of minimize it, you can lose some of the other challenges that are really present here that, that we need to be kind of seeing so that we can, again, give ourselves and what's the appropriate social, political, and organizing response to these things. Because you're going to have them, because to your question earlier, it's not like, just because you're going to get a couple more STEMI checks, right? It doesn't mean in 2 years we won't be back at the exact same place when the Republican Party has dusted itself off and, took a shower from the smell of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's still going to be these issues. It's still a center-right country. It's still 50-50 in the Senate, only 20 or 30 seats, 20 seats in the House, right? Like it's not like a firm structural control of all the institutions. It's tenuous.
Yeah. And to me, it definitely is something for folks to think about. And I think attuned to what you said, that the Democratic Party has not necessarily come through with some, super profound political operations in the 4 years. It was definitely like let's see how we can let's just keep our guard up, see if we can, basically we could tilt it. Just we can expose how wacky this is to the so-called middle of the party, it's in the right But if the society is going to be fundamentally different in the future, it will not be so without people organizing, developing the ideas, implementing policy that actually returns real benefits to people, that they go, damn, right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as much as, GOP keep trying to tear Obamacare apart, there's enough people that's like, yo, I got healthcare. Like, I ain't really with you tearing it apart necessarily. Like, I kind of agree with you, like, in the spirit. I know what you was talking about with the government, like, being involved with the thing. But the other side, I got this healthcare. So like find if there's some way you could take it away, but not take it away. Maybe take Obama's name off it, even though it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's technically like Obamacare.
It's the Affordable Care Act.
Affordable Care Act. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know. So I think that piece of folks thinking about like how are the things that you're trying to implement actually improving the realities for people, and that if you want them to vote for you, and you want and then vote for people, then I think who would see themselves outside the purview of voting. If you want those people, if you want more people to be in agreement with the policies that will improve the quality of your life and the lives of your family, your community, it's going to take groundwork. It's going to take, you know, internal growth and people agreeing and seeing how to, you know, being a part or being on board with whatever policy, you name it, across the spectrum of things that you can have, one can develop policy and action on. It's going to, like, it's not going to just be, there's no replacing the current world and changing the way the current world works without building something that then people are ascribed and assigned to. Like, part of the reason this country is a center-right country is that many of our systems operate with center-right philosophy. With, you know, who assumes risk, you know what I'm saying, that the individual takes on more risk, you know what I'm saying, than the collective, and that it is reasonable, you know, for many different things that are even vital things that you would pay a premium, and then if you can't pay the premium, then that's sort of your fault. You know what I'm saying? So if you really can't afford decent insurance, you know, for health, then it's kind of like, well, you know, get a better job. and then a lot of them go, yeah, get a better job, and it'd be like outside of the reality, like, you know, there comes a point where it's hard to get a much better job than the job you got, depending on the path you're down. You know what I mean? And we can act like that doesn't exist, which is what, you know, this society asks you to do. Got like, well, you know, if you have been in a low wage profession, and you're really good at that low wage profession, but it's just a profession that pays low wages comparatively, that's on you. It's like, well, you still need, you know, food, clothing, and shelter, you know, the basic necessities of life. And then so to me, we go, well, we need to make sure we find a way that you can still access those things, you know, with a sense of dignity, you know, within our society, as opposed to going, well, that sucks to be you, dog. Should have became a lawyer.
Right. Right.
Should have became an accountant. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, everybody can't be an accountant, man. Like, it's just like I tell my, you know, my entrepreneur, start your own business. Everybody can't start their own business, man. Somebody need to work at the business.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the you know, and I actually like them, so I won't mention their names, but there's something to the new idea of everybody get free by being a boss, right? Like, you know, I think hip hop did it, and then now I think that the Instagram and different podcasts have created this whole world of people who are just like, everybody own and flip real estate. Everybody's a boss, right? And, you know, to quote Fab, like, if everybody's a boss, who's the workers? Like, if you got a company of everybody, you know, it sounds cool, like we got a company of all bosses, you know, we're the big meech. But it's like, no, you're going to have people that work, and you're going to have to pay them fairly and have them take care of themselves. And they might pursue economic opportunities, right, of their own, right? They may pursue opportunities of owning real estate or investing in the stock market or whatever that they choose to do. But this world of like everybody's doing that, and oh, by the way, like for $249, I'll teach you these steps. Like, it's been, and I actually want to save it for another show, so I won't. But it's just it's a fascinating phenomenon that has taken root. But I think to your broader point, yes, the underlying institutions in our country reflect the mentality of the center right, right? Where, to your point, the individual is prime, right? And, you know, even when we think about, okay, the quality of healthcare you get is actually based on what you're good at. because it's really not what you can afford, it's what you're good at. Because what you're good at and what people will pay you for then defines the quality of the healthcare. Right? Like people, and I set myself at some juncture, clearly I went into government because I knew the quality of healthcare. Because when you add in the actual total compensation package, when you have quality healthcare, it balances out. Then you might make less.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, what are you good at, or who bargained for you is the definition of what kind of healthcare you're getting, the quality of care that you'll need, which is, again, like you said, a fundamentally center-right perspective. So I think that the deeper thing that we need to unearth from this whole experience is what is going on with the American political project. And then as, quote unquote progressives, as black folks, as brown folks, as original people got to start figuring out, where do you fit in to this conversation? Because if you think this ain't got nothing to do with you, and then you really allow other people to think it ain't got nothing to do with you, don't be surprised if it ain't got nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. Besides when you need to be a voting bank, right? Besides when people need to come and get you to vote for stuff.
Absolutely.
So
I think my closing thought on this, all of this madness is one, it's maybe it's three parts. So one part is we should be prepared for additional, and anyone that is in charge of the actual security of the public space, you should be prepared for additional violent actions from people assigned that come out for these things. And that action will be more often taken towards, state apparatus things, actually, and isolated incidents with individual stuff, meaning, when they got somebody outnumbered, they like to get rowdy, I'm saying, in terms of private citizens, when those individuals, when they, so they catch you, maybe not me, but some people by themselves, just go over there and mess with that guy. He looks like Antifa, some of that type shit. But they typically, I say, they all never seem to do their little truck caravans through those neighborhoods where they might actually, get some blowback.
Find what they was looking for.
They seem to find a way not to do that. But then the other side of so, like, if you are in public safety in any way, nation's capital, state capitals, city governments, if those people plan to have a meeting, you should show up with the requisite information, and someone should go to them. Hey, we know how y'all get down. If y'all stay over there and do your little dances and play your songs and wave your flags, you're good. You come over here, we're going to have to send you home. You know what I'm saying? And just do that. It ain't that hard. Like, public safety, that's your job. That's what you spend all day thinking about. But in terms of breaking into penetrating sort of the information bubble because it's interesting reading some of the accounts of some of the woman who lost her life due to what occurred. She wasn't the only one. It was 4 others, but the woman that was shot. And a couple articles I read where family was like, yeah, like she was getting more radical and and like going over here. It's like the reality of, like, when people are moving based on the ideas that they're dancing with, so to speak, and that the people whom are close to them, you fall into, you land in a place of, one, it's not your job as some like civic duty to help the rest of us to change them. I just be aware of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all got, many of us, I would say, at least have a family member who maybe, one day it comes through with some views. You're like, you have some interesting perspective, cousin so-and-so, and you decide how you're going to interact with them. But, we have a world where it's very easy to get a reinforcing system of information. And I think it's not a lot different from the way some of our young people and younger and not just young, but young people, get embroiled in certain aspects of the street life. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause it's part of a information chain and a response loop that says, this is what I should be doing. This is where I should be. And I think similar processes And I think that is paramount for all of us to think about how we can connect with people and how we can, engage with them, and then from there, no, I'm not giving any other prescription, in terms of like that you need to make them one way or another. Just how can you connect with people and check their temperature? You know what I'm saying? And go, hey, you good? You good over there? You cool? All right, man. I'm just checking on you. You know what I'm saying? And I see you over there. I'll make sure you straight, man. If you need a water, I'll get you a water. You know what I'm saying? And that folks can, when people can find something that gives them identity and direction, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be healthy for them or for us, but it doesn't mean it still becomes something that will give them, focus, and they'll go, and you be like, oh man, he seems really motivated, he seems really into that cause, and then those things are not, they don't necessarily have benign outcomes, and we definitely in the midst of all that's happening, it's in our best interest to think about how people are connecting and what they're connecting to, and then how are we connecting to them, especially if they're people that we care about. So, and also don't be running up in no damn state buildings no more. That shit ain't cool. But that's the end of my rant. Otherwise,
I think that's a good place for us to end.
Ridiculous, man. So, just in a real brief, 2021, is underway. So, we're going to try to have some fun.
That's right.
So that'll be the closing thought. We had to talk about the crazy thing, and then we're going to try to have some fun in the future. So, anything for the good order before I let us go?
Nah, I think laid it down.
All right. With that,
let's have fun. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. As we go into a new year, there's so much on deck that I wanted to ensure that I stated early that there's a lot on deck. There's a lot on my mind. There's a lot that I plan to do. We intend to continue, me and my good brother, I'm Majestic's, weekly or so conversations. However, I intend to hit you and be very productive in the general central core unit of this project, of Ask Your Oldhead, in terms of my interviews of black men from all walks of life and experiences, and some other wrinkles. So please stay tuned, please stay engaged, please stay safe, please stay sharp. Make sure you are looking out for those around you. This pandemic ain't over, so take care of yourself. Support the podcast, the best way. Share, join the patron. Shoot a brother a Cash App or something, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. It don't matter, man. Just keep listening. And if you like what I'm doing and what I'm talking about when I bring these together, share it with somebody that you think can get something from it. Everything else will work itself out. So with that, I say thank you. Be safe. Peace.